This is Healthy Souls with Father Nicholas Lowe, helping you to live a Christ-filled life in today's world. Father Nicholas is the pastor of St. John the Divine Greek Orthodox Church in Jacksonville, Florida.
Today I want to talk to you about, I believe, one of the greatest epidemics that is facing our society, and probably more so in this country. An epidemic so great that it is impacting, I would believe, about 90% of us here in this church this morning. It's an epidemic so great that it's impacting your walk of faith. It impacts your relationships with your family. An epidemic so great that it causes you at times to compromise in your own walk of faith. It doesn't allow you to hear the voice of God speaking to you. What is this epidemic that is plaguing at least 90% of all of us? It is a life out of balance. It is a life that's just too busy. Listen to these statistics about people in this country and how they're being impacted by a life that's out of order. Do you know that we get about 2.5 hours less of sleep than we did just a couple of decades ago? Did you realize that we are working now more hours now than we were just a couple of decades ago? So we're getting less sleep and more work. In one study that I read, it found that we're only spending about 4 minutes a day cleaning up after our dinner meal. What do they mean by that? They meant that we're all purchasing, or many people are purchasing, fast food meals all the time because there's no time to sit down and have a dinner together. Life is out of balance. Let me put it to you in a little funny way. This sermon applies to you. If someone gave you a book on time management and you don't have time to read it, you're too busy. Let me put it to you this way. If you told your children, come on down for dinner, and they go and get into the car, you're too busy. If you got more clothes in your car than you do in your closet, you're too busy. Life can be very, very busy for all of us. And I just want to encourage you, if you were to look at your life, and if it was a scale, if you were weighing your life, is your life in order? Would God say, yeah, you got a good mix of both? Or could God be telling you, you're doing too much? Your life is out of balance. And this is a message that, I'll be quite honest with you, if there's ever a sermon that I'm preaching to myself and to you, it is this one. And could it be that God is saying, can you just please slow the pace and create some space in your life? Could it be that God is speaking to you today? He's tugging at your heart and he's saying, can you just slow the pace and create some space for God in your life? I kind of sometimes think that God is getting on the phone sometimes every day, and he's calling and he's saying, hey, I want to give you an encouraging word. I want you to be careful from this situation. I want you to have faith in this situation. I want you to be patient in this situation. Like God is trying to talk to you sometimes. He's picking up the phone, and when he calls your soul, he gets the busy signal. Could it be that God is saying, can you just slow the pace and create some space for your family? I can't tell you how many times I see families that are coming in for counseling, all because they're not spending time together, truly engaged with one another, and not allowing television or their phones to kind of occupy that space. And could it be that God is telling all of us, can you create some space to simply just take time for yourself? How many of you are taking time for you to reflect? Slow the pace, create the space. I want you to open up your Bibles to page 16. We're looking at the Gospel of Matthew, and it's an extraordinary message that, to be quite honest with you, I would tell all of you that this should be a refrigerator verse. It's a verse that you should just write and kind of keep on your refrigerator. But Jesus is talking to a whole bunch of people who, like us, are very busy. Our life is out of balance. So we're looking at chapter 11, verses 28. If you can remember 11:28, it'll be a great thing. Listen to what he says. Come to me, all of you who are tired Are any of you just tired this morning? Tired from carrying heavy loads, being pushed and pulled into a million different directions. And what does that say? Can we say that sentence, all of us together? Y'all read it with me. And I will give you rest. Take my yoke and put it on you, and learn from me, because I am gentle and humble in spirit, and you will find, what's that word? Rest. For the yoke I will give you is easy, and the load I will put on you is light. Some of us could really need to hear a message about a life that's out of balance. So what does that word yoke mean? Basically, if you're familiar with any kind of agriculture, a yoke is an instrument that is put on two oxen as they're plowing down an area. And what God was saying was that, listen, some of you have your yoke on you, but you have the world's yoke on the other side. And that yoke is destroying, it's not allowing you to go into the path that I yearned for you to be in. And some of us, we're so focused, there's such a desire in this world to acquire things in this world that we're getting off track. And God's just saying, take my yoke onto you. And some of us, we're being told over and over again, this is the perfect Christmas gift to get your family member. If you just buy this, then they'll be happy. And Jesus is saying to you, stop buying into that lie, because it is only God in the form of Jesus Christ who can give you rest. He is the one. And so how do we get that rest? How do we take on Christ? Let me give you 3 S's that allow you to slow the pace and create the space. Number 1 S, set God as your shepherd. Do you know in the Bible, Jesus refers to us as sheep over 500 times. Sheep are one of these things that they don't know themselves. They'll continue to eat, they'll continue to work, they never take care of themselves. And Jesus is telling us that you are the sheep, but I am the shepherd. In Psalm 23, many of you know it, it's another beautiful message that talks about the relationship between the shepherd and the sheep. And he says this, the Lord is my, you say it, shepherd. I will not want. What does the word want mean? I'm not looking at this world to keep telling me what I need to do. Keep adding more and more, one more meeting, one more agenda, one more event. The Lord is my shepherd, and everything that I do is through the lens of my shepherd. I will not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He allows me to just rest. Some of us today are just going through this maze of this world, and some of us just simply need to say, Lord, you are my shepherd, and everything that I'm going to do is through your lens. Maybe some of us could learn 2 very powerful letters today. N-O. No. No. I can't do this. I can't do that. Why? Because he's my shepherd. Number 2, second S, is make sure, friends, that you set the Sabbath. Set forth your Sabbath. You know, in the Old Testament, God gives us 10 commandments. And these commandments, can I tell you, oftentimes we look at these things that maybe God is doing these to kind of make our lives miserable. Don't do this and don't do that. But God gives us these commandments not to make our life miserable, but to help to give us an avenue to become the people that God wants us to be. God yearns for us to be happy people that are focused on Him. You know what the word Sabbath means? Stop. Stop. Stop the need for more. You know, in my life, people oftentimes look at my life and they're saying, Father, you're so busy. And we are very, very busy. But I will tell you that Fridays for me is the Sabbath. I don't have it as a Sunday, but it is for me Fridays. It's a time that I'm not spending time going to do something that is entertaining. I'm not doing something just for myself. It is time that I spend in prayer and reflection. Oftentimes, I spend it just kind of writing and tidying up the message that I'm going to share with you on Sundays. Do you have a time where you're just spending time with Him? What if today when you went home, you said, son or daughter, your child, let's go for a walk around the neighborhood. When was the last time you just had some uninterrupted time with your children, or for that matter, your spouse? Try it today. When your wife passes out, just pick her back up and say, we're going to go for a walk around the neighborhood. We're just going to spend some time in the Sabbath. And by the way, going to a football game is not a Sabbath. It is taking the time to spend it with your family and spend it in your own life, reflecting on your own life. And number 3, set forth your Sabbath, set forth God as your shepherd. And number 3, set God's purpose as your purpose for your life. One of the biggest misnomers in society is that activity, too much activity, leads to burnout. This is a misnomer. It is a total misunderstanding of how we should be living our lives. Activity does not lead to burnout. Too much activity doesn't lead to burnout. Activity, though, minus purpose will lead to burnout. And many people will tell me, Father Nick, I work 6 days a week. I need the 7th day to just rest at home. Or, Father Nick, I'm just so tired, I'm going to take this Sunday off. What we don't realize is that the devil loves for you to take the one thing that can light the spark in your heart to give you a purpose in your life, to take it off your list of things to do simply because you think, and he'll make you think this way, that it'll just give you some rest. Activity, I'll give it to you in a mathematical formula, activity minus purpose will equal to your burnout. If there's one place that should be on your things to do every week, not because you have to, but because you want to, it is to be here in worship. How do you also find purpose? Make a difference. What are ways that you are making a difference in the lives of people that you see on a day-to-day basis? Your coworkers, your family members. Find that. I promise you, it will give you purpose. I leave you with this message. During my years at the seminary, I would always go and work both sometimes during the Christmas break and for sure in the summers in a very small town right outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It was a very mountainous area, and we would love to be there. It was a beautiful area. But in the wintertime especially, that area gets very wet. In fact, it rains a lot. And many times the weathermen would get on the news and they would say, be careful because you can get mudslides, that the roads can get very slippery. And they would have this phrase that they would always say. They'd say that if you're driving in this rain, in this mountainous area, be careful because the road is saturated and destabilized. Saturated and destabilized. And I think about our own life. Could it be that some of you are just saturated right now? That some of you are just so saturated with all the things that you have to do, and as a result, you're destabilized. And I hope and pray that today's message is simply a pit stop for you. That as you're racing in this walk of life, that just like a high-performance vehicle needs a little pit stop to get encouragement, to get fixed up, to get its repair so that it can continue its high-performance ability, so also can all of you use a little bit of a pit stop to help you in that. And I hope and pray, friends, that pit stop looks a little bit like this. Set Jesus as your shepherd. Anything else will never give you peace. Set forth a Sabbath, a day that you reflect on your own life and where you are living in your own life and spending time with your family. And number 3, set God's purpose as your purpose in your life. Yes, just have an idea, have a belief in your own heart that I'm going to put my arms out and I'm going to look at the weight, the scale of my life, and I'm going to say, my life is out of balance. How do I fix that? Slow the pace, create the space. Slow the pace and create some space.
We invite you to join Father Nick and his wife, Dr. Roxanne Lowe, on the 2nd and 4th Tuesday of every month for their Healthy Minds, Healthy Souls call-in show at 8 Eastern, 7 Central on Ancient Faith Talk.